Now, let me ask you this. Is Tristan Thompson giving athletes a bad rap, or really can none of these guys and gals they just can't keep it in their pants? Okay. Another question for you. Is Lizzo really promoting, is this really a body image positivity moment we have going on? And also, did Diddy really uncancel the canceled? Well, these are just a couple of questions that we are going to take a little stab at today, okay? And I'm joined with a very special guest. And we've been meaning to do this for a hot minute. And he says that he is prepared for the cancel me baby situation. He doesn't really know what I'm going to throw at him today. This is all kind of like fly by the seat of our pants. So help me in welcoming Nick Hamilton. Nick's got the little trifecta going on because he specializes in sports, in pop culture, in lifestyle, okay? He's the founder of Nitecast Media. He is a contributor to MLB Bro. We're going to be talking all about the bros today, okay? And you may have seen him on NBC LA, on BBC, heard him on iHeart Radio. He is everywhere, but none quite like the Cancel Me Baby chat. Nick Hamilton, you said you're ready. Let's go.
Hey, let's go. I'm on with the beautiful and talented Taylor. I mean, come on. You can't get no better than that.
I mean, gee, way to make a gal blush along with her early morning coffee, Nick. My gosh. Hugh Hefner, who? Nick, your specialty is really sports. Now, I'm no sports aficionado, but we're going to talk a little bit about some themes going on here. First of all, I have to know, as a diehard Pats fan myself, what are your thoughts on Gronk supposedly retiring again? I don't know if you heard this.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we've heard that before, like you said, but it's like, is he really going to retire? Because I feel like we're preparing for a midseason comeback. Like, if the Tampa Bay Bucks are doing pretty well by midseason, like, I feel like Brady will put that call in to Gronk and be like, hey,
yeah, everyone's saying that.
Just play the last 12 games, man. We can go one more run at it. One more opportunity for us to try to get another ring. And I think Gronk is going to be better in media, but I think he'll be better on the side as a sideline personality, because I think he really gives you a better perspective of the game, because and he's fun. He's an airy, bubbly personality. He's a goofball, and he's fun to watch.
Okay, do you want to hear a fun? Well, first of all, who isn't whipped by Tom Brady? I'm sorry, he could do whatever he wanted to me any time of day. Like, if he gets that call from Gronk, like, I empathize with Gronk. Like, I will do what Tom Brady says. Okay, at the drop of a hat. Now, I don't know, because Nick, you're out and about. You're on these red carpets. You're based in LA, born and raised. Have you met Gronk? Because I haven't. I have a funny story about him, and it's pretty recent, him and his girlfriend, that ties into what I teased at earlier, like athletes being, a little bit, what's the word? Tempted, right? By other women. Yes. So have you met him before?
Yeah, I actually met him. I think it was one year at the Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards. He was on the orange carpet, and he was actually a freaking goofball.
Totally.
Like, he was actually probably one of the best interviews of the day, because he really engaged with you. And the thing about Gronk is that whatever energy you're putting out there, Gronk is going to match that and double it. And that's the fun part about Gronk. Like, how can you hate Gronk? Like, you may hate the team, but you can't hate him. Right?
No, I met him on a carpet. It was right before COVID. And listen, phenomenal athlete, great personality. I don't know what's going on though between the two ears. Like, I don't know how much conversation is to be had there, if you know what I mean. So I mean, Nick is shaking his head. So that's what you get for being tossed around on a football field. Like, what can I say? Well, I'm going to talk about my experience at the ESPYs too. We're going to get into that with these athletes, but It's funny because I met him with his girlfriend, Camille Kostek, right? Famous, you know, Sports Illustrated model. And I'd say to Gronk, it's just so funny because I say to Gronk, you know, my dad's a diehard Pats fan. We're from New England. Like, can I get a photo? And being the goofball he is, he's like, yeah, let's do it. What is hilarious is you can see in the photo, Nick, I will put it up here. She is like inserting herself as if I was trying to swoop in and steal her man. Like she looks like my Siamese twin. She's like, okay, photo with the three of us. And I'm thinking, girl, trust me. Again, I don't know what those conversations would even be like. I am not trying to swoop in and steal your man. So there you go for Camille.
Well, maybe she saw you and was like, I got to step my game up.
Oh.
Maybe.
Oh,
I'm just saying.
Oh,
sometimes you inspire people to step your game up.
Just saying. But that could be a good thing, right? Keep each other on our toes. You know.
And
so that's
keep on your toes like Michael Jackson is penny loaves.
Exactly. So this gets me perfectly into my next thing, Nick, is like, you know me, when I was on red carpets, I just had at it and I asked the things that we really wanted to know. So I covered the ESPYs one year and kind of speaking to all of this, right? Not being, you know, a sports, you know, expert like you are. I asked athletes from all the NBA, you know, swimming, wrestling, like all kinds of things. Like, what is the deal? Is it a stereotype that athletes cheat on their partners? Because like I said, they're tempted, they're rich, they're hot, they're fit, they travel. Before I get into what they said, what is your take? Because you're hobnobbing with these people all day.
Well, you know what? I've always said it's stupid as hell if you a primetime athlete, whatever sport it is, and you're actually want to get married. Like, that's stupid as hell to me. You should follow the Derek Jeter model. Like, Derek Jeter didn't start getting even engaged until like his final year of his baseball career because he knew this was going to be it. And it was pretty much everything was going to start to die down, right? Because he was no longer like that guy, even though he's the captain, but he was not that guy anymore, right? So I thought that was brilliant in him. But for you to, why the hell, you know how many groupies and how many of these broads are actually at these arenas, like looking to make a come up, like creep on a come up? Oh. And you mean to tell me you are the guy, like you are and I'm not saying any of these athletes in particular, but I'm saying you are a LeBron James type. You are a, you know, Dwayne Wade type in their primes. Like, these are like premier athletes that we will always forever will go down in history, right? I'm not thinking about no damn marriage if I'm one of those athletes. No. That's stupid.
I have to say, the whole Derek Jeter model, what you're saying, I respect it. Because people can judge and be like, oh, what a player, you know, no pun intended, this or that. But it's like, listen, he's swinging the bat and he knows he's going to be swinging the dick. So are we going to judge him? Like, I almost respect it more if he's like, listen, I'm going to bow out. Because I have to say, like, you know, a lot of these athletes, they marry, they have like 50 million kids. And we all know in the back of our minds, we are judging being like, okay, but like how many side pieces? I'm not saying all of them, but this is kind of what I was bringing to the carpet that day. Like, let's be real here, right? I mean, I know I'm not crazy.
Nah, I mean, it's a valid question. I think it's just the fact of, do they really want to answer the question? Honestly, that's the key. Because I mean, it is a certain fraternity, like, you know, it's certain things you're not going to say because you keep that fraternity. It's almost like, right, you know, we're coming out as a united front, but we all know, I mean, come on, man. There are hundreds of girls for the top-notch athletes that are waiting for them just to say, hey, meet me in room 112. You know what I mean? And let's go. Let's do what we got to do. Like, come on. It's inevitable.
Like Mick Jagger thought. But the thing is, when I would bring it to the carpet, it's almost like when you're so honest, they meet you there, almost like a peer. Like when you just don't beat around the bush and no bullshit. And the way that they reacted was what you're saying. Like they were like, listen, like, I'm not going to not say, but they weren't even mad. It was kind of just like, I'm not going to not say, like, what happens out after the court stays there, that kind of thing. But what's hilarious is I interviewed a famous duo of female wrestlers, and their publicists ended up, they were all like, whoop, it went right over their head. They thought that I meant like cheating in the sport. So the publicist came back to me and was like, you can't run that, okay? Because with the cheating, and I was like, no, bitch, we're talking about two different things here. So we got lost in translation with that one, but that's interesting. Is there like a time, Nick, where you like saw it in real life where you just were like, wow, like the pussy will line up for this shit? And can you like paint the picture?
I mean, I was literally standing outside of a visitor's locker room, and it was a particular athlete that I won't mention, but he is a big time athlete.
Okay.
One of the big time athletes, I should say. It was in LA, and we're standing outside waiting for the visitors' locker room to come open, right? So, you know, you got a few media people. We stand out kind of talking, chattering, you know, chatting up a bit. And all of a sudden you see three of these girls, right? You're like, damn, these girls are hot as hell. Like, who are they, right? So at first you kind of like, okay, maybe there's somebody's wife and they home girls, right? So you're like, okay, you don't want to look at somebody's wife and be disrespectful, especially if you think it's a particular player. And they weren't, because I look at the blingage on the finger, right? So I like, if your fingers are naked, pretty much you unattached, or you just took it off.
Yep.
Right. And they literally like knocked on the door. The red coat was standing at the visitors' locker room, and they opened the door and they let all three girls in. But we couldn't come in, right?
Oh,
so I'm sitting here like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then it took like 15 minutes for the coach to come out, right? But it was a cool off period. Then it took like almost 30 minutes for the actual player that we were looking for to actually come out and speak to us in the locker room. I mean, outside the locker room. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the wrong profession. Because there's
like,
no way.
I think that about OnlyFans. I'm like, where did I go wrong? Where did I make a wrong thing?
I'm like, damn, what did I do wrong? Like, did I miss something here? Was I not gifted a particular, did I miss the gifting line before I was born? Like, what the hell's going on? But it was funny to me because I'm like, and we did not see those girls the rest of the time because we had to leave. It was time for us to leave, to vacate the premises.
They couldn't walk, Nick. They needed to be escorted out with wheelchairs now.
I mean, I'd have helped out. You know, I'd have helped out in some way, shape, or form.
That's hilarious. I mean, that makes me think, you know, people like I've had Dave Portnoy on my show, the founder of Barstool, and Barstool gets a bad rap for the idea of, you know, locker room talk and bringing it to a mainstream level. Now, what do you think, like, is locker room talk actually problematic, or is it all fun and games?
I think it can be depending on the context of it, but at the same time, I think, you know, it can be fun. I think why Barstool gets a bad rap sometimes because they talk too damn much. They become chatty patties. And sometimes you could talk too damn much. Like it's one thing to sell content. That's what we all trying to do out here, and spark controversy and spark interest.
Yes.
But sometimes you could talk too damn much. And also, too, some of their practices have been very suspect. So I kind of understand why Barstool gets the criticism that they get. But on the flip side of that, they do get a lot of eyeballs and eardrums to what they're doing. So obviously, people are interested in what they're doing and what content they're producing. I mean, they got some great shows, $1 Million Worth of Game. They have, you know, Deion Sanders. You know, they have some really cool shows on that platform.
Yeah.
So I think it's just you got to know when to say when. You got to know when to ride that line and when to be a habitual line stepper. And they've been habitual line steppers.
Well, that's the thing is like, even with real locker room talk, I feel like it could become a problem where if like, you know, if you're just chatting, whatever, you know, joking around with your friends, whatever, but then like when it comes down to it, if you actually treat a woman, like if it sinks in and you treat her like less than or whatever, treat her kind of way. But on the flip side, I've talked about this with our mutual friend, Evan, the bow tie bandit, the creator of Young Golden Regal. Yes. And he and I have had this debate of like I've joked, like guys will do anything for the pussy, right? So it's that idea of like, is locker room talk, that kind of thing. Like when it, you know, the guys, you know, way of almost like having the power. And then when it comes down to it in real life, like women really actually have the power, you know?
Y'all do. You absolutely have the power. I mean, I've said that numerous times. I said women run the world because first of all, you guys outnumber us, number one. So we want to go through the statistics. I mean, for every guy, look
at the numbers,
right? It's basically 6-1 for every guy, right? So 7-1, whatever it is. And then it's like you guys allow us to do what we want to do. I don't care how much game you have. I don't care how smooth talking you claim to be. If the woman is not feeling you, she is not feeling you. If she doesn't want to be with you, she's not going to be with you. I don't give a damn how good you think you look, how good you smell. It's all about what she wants. And if she is allowing you to invade her dungeon, then so be it.
It's even also, thank you for bringing up the smell, because I feel like that is an unsung hero of all of these interactions. So thank you for bringing that to the light and giving it the attention it deserves. But no, it's actually true, right? Even if it's inadvertently, it's like, I feel like women kind of like lead the way and the guys like follow, right? Did you see that clip that just went viral of that guy who was like, you know, you guys, you know, this whole wave of feminism is bullshit because guys basically are women's bitches. Like, he's basically like, do you think that we want to be in coal mines and this and that? No, we're slaving our ass away, bringing the garbage out at 5 a.m. to like provide for our wives and that whole thing. And so you have to watch it. It just went viral, but a couple people sent it to me, but I was like, you know, I could have, because he was saying how like, he's like, a lot of dudes, like they don't even get custody of the children. Like they can't even support themselves. They're a mess. Like, so this whole idea of like men running the world and this idea of the new feminism, he basically is like, what a hoax. Like,
I mean, hey, I know some cats that have taken penitentiary chances for their women, right? Or for the women that they like.
That
right?
idea.
So that part is absolutely true. Like the stuff that we're willing to do. I mean, y'all can have us in orange slacks and a green shirt and tell us how cute we are. We'll go outside thinking we do the absolute shit, and we looking like a goddamn buffoon, right? Like that's the power that y'all have. Like when a guy is really into a woman, that is very critical. So he makes some valid points. I don't know about I agree with everything, but he definitely makes some valid points.
Yeah, I feel the same way. That's funny. But remember that, ladies, because I feel like people forget that. You're like, but I draw the line at Crocs. All right, bitch, that ain't happening now.
I don't wear Crocs and I don't wear Yeezys. You can forget that.
Why not? Why no Yeezys?
Because they're garbage.
The aesthetic?
They're garbage. They're about as I'm talking about these new Yeezys, not the old ones, not the ones from Nike or the very first series on Adidas. Those are actually pretty dope. Like the all white Yeezys, like those are the ones I'm still looking for, and the ones that were with Nike. But the rest of these new Yeezys are crap. They look like trash. Like Drake's new album is trash.
Wow. I mean, I don't even know what to say, because I was going to talk about why hip hop these days in my mind is trash. We're going to get to that though. We're going to tease at that because I really want your opinion, because we're going to talk about Diddy. Like in my mind, like the peak of it all, like that's just my opinion. Like when it had a rhythm, mm-hmm. Now I feel like, I don't know what is happening there. Okay. But before we get to that though, my last thought on sports, because I love how you are like playing this game, all the puns intended, like you're just going for it. Your thoughts, Nick, on that whole sports thing, because here's why. This has come up in the news again this week, because I think it's called FINA, F-I-N-A. They're the international organization who basically calls the shots for elite water sports, right? So this is in the news this week because they made a new rule, and people are saying a couple new rules. People are saying that it's like restricting trans athletes in swimming. Basically what they say is like, if you didn't like transition in your body before you started hormones and stuff before you were 12, you can't compete with women. Basically, because they say is if you go through puberty as a boy, you're going to be built differently, right? You're going to have bigger lungs, bigger shoulders, like all this stuff. They also, which in my mind is fair, created, like for anybody who doesn't qualify, created like an all gender, everyone welcome, like league kind of thing, right? So when they voted, 71 members were in favor of this, and the members included like scientists, coaches, trans athletes, all these people. Now you have the mainstream media, like The Cut, right? New York Magazine's Women's Magazine, say that this is like a blow to trans sports. So again, as sports being your specialty, what do you think about all of that?
Well, let me first and foremost say I have no problem with transgender people competing in any sport, any type of event. I think they have absolutely the opportunity and should have the opportunity to compete. Having said that, I do agree with the 71 people, because it is an unfair advantage. Just like whether it's swimming, whether it's track and field, Yeah, okay. You have a right to live your life, excuse me, the way that you want to live it. You have absolutely. I always believe anybody over 18 has a right to live their life the way they want to, because you're at a particular mind state where you can make certain choices about your life.
Yeah.
In addition to that, I'm going to say, yeah, I agree with them, because I feel like it is an unfair advantage, whether it's swimming, whether it's track and field. You can't have women out there that were born women. And then all of a sudden there's a gentleman out there that realizes, you know what, I don't feel like I'm a man. I want to be a woman, which you have every right to do. And then you want to compete with the women. No, you could compete if there's a transgender aspect to competition. Go compete in that. That's fine. Nobody's segregating you away from competition. People are just simply saying, look, it's an unfair advantage. It's no different than if a woman who's born a woman competes against other women, but she's taking steroids or taking some type of PED. We're quick to be like, oh, you're taking PEDs. Oh, you're taking anabolic steroids. Oh, you're disqualified. Oh, you did weed. You smoked weed. Oh, you're disqualified. But we don't have a problem when it comes to transgender athletes and looking at their sizable advantage in whatever gender they decided to be and competing against that particular gender. That's not a problem. That's asinine to me, because I always feel like, listen, if you want to compete, nobody's stopping you from competing. It's just a certain way that you have to compete now. That's just all it is. Nobody's discriminating against you. I'm against discrimination of any kind, because I feel like that to me is the ultimate unfair advantage. But nah, man, like they need to figure out, I think they need to flush out these ideas to be able to appease the transgender community, as well as those who are the heterosexual communities, to be able to come to some sort of compromise where they can come to an agreement to be able to have everybody compete in a fair and just manner, period.
Nick Hamilton, everybody. I mean, I feel like they're making all of these decisions, because we're going to talk about Lizzo next, like emotional, instead of just being objective about it and like being like, all right, what makes sense? I mean, wouldn't you, Nick, be a little intimidated competing against like a Lia Thomas in a swimming pool, like a big, broad in many ways, like a man who has transitioned, and like you're up against them? Like there's some stiff competition there, I would think.
Yeah, if I was a woman, I would look at that like, whoa, this person could really like kick my ass right now. And I've been the one kicking ass in this particular sport, right?
I'm saying, so, even as a guy.
Oh, as a guy, I mean, it probably, if it was if that person who was a guy became a woman, wanted to compete with other guys, I wouldn't have a problem with that, because you're competing against other guys. Right. But if you want to compete against other women, that's where the problem lies to me.
Right.
Just like if a woman who became a guy wanted if that person that transitioned wanted to compete with other women, not a problem. But when you want to compete with guys, now you're going to be at a disadvantage, because you're going to have guys who remain guys, who were created as guys, are going to probably beat you. And then what are you going to call fair? You're going to call unfair on that? I'm like, come on, when does it stop? So you got to, like I said earlier, it needs to come to some sort of agreement with the transgender community, the LGBTQ community, and the heterosexual community. Be able to come to some sort of agreement to be able to say, okay, let's let everybody compete, but here's how we could compete on an even scale.
Absolutely. And that's where the media skews everything. Like the cut example, right? Where it's like, what a setback, what a blow to transports. It's like, you guys don't have to go this hard. Stop it. Like, we're just talking, common sense and what's fair for everybody here.
Right. I don't think it's a blow for transgender sport. Again, I'm a heterosexual man, so I can only speak from my perspective. Like, I don't want to misspeak against the transgender community.
Of course. Exactly. I want everyone to live their best lives and swim and do what they want to do, but in a way that's fair. And also, isn't it funny that we have to qualify everything these days? We're like, okay, here was the latitude and longitude of where I was born and how, and my blood type and my social security, and here's how I feel about this.
Man, it's the world we live in, you know what I mean? But it's I think it's a more conscious world too. I think people are being more cognizant of what they're doing, because I don't think normal people don't really want to go out of their way to offend other human beings. I don't believe that.
Right.
I think people that offend people on purpose are assholes that just want to be exactly who they are.
Who are being mean. That's fair, Nick. That's fair. Well, speaking of that, right? And our cultures, though, when it goes too far, our obsession with being a little too sensitive and not wanting to offend anybody. Besides the fact that Lizzo swapped out the word spaz in her new song. I don't know if you heard about this because she got blowback because it's like, you can't say spaz, like cerebral palsy. I'm just like, oh my God. I mean, I don't know if you remember this in School of Rock, you know, iconic movie with Jack Black, the whole thing.
Yeah.
He jokes about the kid drummer. He's like, oh, Spazzy McGee over here. You know, it's just like, guys, come on. Like, you're going to find something for everything. But that aside, like the fact that she literally changed the song and the lyrics is nuts. But what do you think about the whole debate, Lizzo and body positivity? And again, like, is it crossing a line? Is it too much? Is it like we're just going to praise everything for the sake of praising it at this point because we don't want to hurt feelings? What do you think?
I mean, first of all, I'm still grossed out the fact I was at Staples Center and she got up there to shake her stinking ass on the Jumbotron. I had to look. I thought it was Rikishi from WWE. I had to remember that was Lizzo. That was the nastiest shit I've ever seen in my life. I'm sorry. You can get mad at me all you want to. But you know, some of y'all out there that are watching this fine program were thinking it when that thing came up on the jump because it went viral, right?
Yeah,
it went viral because I'm literally sitting there like I'm elevated, but I'm like, literally looking there.
How many rows back? Like I'm trying to be in the eyeballs of Nick Hamilton.
Like, where the media sits, I'm in section 117, right? So you get direct, you see the walkway where the Lakers come out to go practice, and we're right behind the Laker bench. She's literally 3 rows from the Lakers bench, right in that section. And I have to look at that. And I was like, I almost threw up in my mouth. That was nasty. I don't want to see that. If that's what you want to do, you do that shit on your own time. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. And you talk about what's positive. Honestly, what's positive about obesity? Because
that's where to me it, you know, and what if people say to you, hey Nick, 5 seconds ago you were just saying, you know, don't be mean for the sake of being mean, and now you're being mean. I mean, I'm like laughing because it's like there's truth in what you're saying.
Exactly. Am I being mean or am I being truthful with something that you people don't want to hear? See, that's the difference. See, what I was saying earlier was justified because people are discriminating against people who happen to be gay or lesbian or transgender. That's wrong. I don't care what aspect that comes from. When you're talking about obesity, something that you can change, that you can, and I'm not saying everybody has to be a size 2. I'm not saying everybody has to be a size 6. But
totally.
As far as what are you promoting besides obesity that continues to be go at an alarming rate in our community, in the Black and brown communities, that continues to excel at an alarming rate? What is positive about that? And then everybody wants to talk about body shaming. No, it's called truth. It's called get your fat ass in the gym and get to working out. Get to working out. Seriously. And again, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to be mean, but let's be honest here. Like, you know, you don't really like what you see in the mirror, because I know what I don't like to see in the mirror. I'm talking about myself. I had to get my fat behind in the gym, and I'm talking about myself because I was overweight. Okay.
Oh, really?
I had to get my fat ass in the gym, and I'm still in the gym because I still want to look a certain particular way. That's just the pride I have in myself. And it was a health concern at one point. So I know that's got to be a health concern. I know the doctor, they said you go for your annual physical, and the doctor's like, oh, you look great. Thanks. See you in 6 months. Get the hell out of here.
That's the thing. And she just came out because I was Googling it this morning preparing for this interview. And I guess she did a new, like, she's in an underwear and a little bra thing posing. And like, of course, like people picked it up, all this, right? But you're right. It's like, it's not fun and games when it comes down to it. And that's the thing though, like it gets conflated with like, oh, I love how you said it. Like, you don't have to be a size 2. Like I love, big bones and curvaceous women. Like it's gorgeous. I have like close friends. Like it's super hot and it's gorgeous. But then like, let's not conflate that though with what we're seeing here. And that's a problem. Like you see the media being so scared. So they're like, we're going to applaud it and cheer this on, but when does it become a problem? And I think that like only in our society, I'm so glad that you brought up working hard for your body, because I revealed this a little bit to my listeners, but I'm in the process of really kicking my ass in the gym and carving my like waist down, right? Like the thighs, the booty. And it is like, I'm only 5'1", and I'll say this, like, it is hard fucking work. First of all, I'm on day like 13. I've taken one day off. I've changed my diet. I'll go for an hour and a half a day. Like, it is no joke, but like, I've talked to my friend who's a trainer, like all this stuff, right? And it's that like reward though. Like, it's like a goal and the challenge and the reward. And it's like, that is like, it's exciting, right? And it's exhilarating. Like the fact that you want to like look a certain way and take care of yourself and present yourself to the world and walk into a room and like own the room and have that power in a certain way. And it's like, no, in our society, all of that, like, don't work on yourself. No, you're perfect as you are, you know, it feeds into this whole thing and it's insane.
See, the problem is, but see, Taylor, you look good though. Whatever you do, you look good. Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
But see, that's the problem. The ones that don't really need to necessarily do it are the ones that do. The ones that need to do it are still stuck in the McDonald's line. Okay,
I can't right now.
So that's what I'm saying. That's that. But like you said, it goes with personal preference. And I tell people all the time, look, do you? I'm one individual. Okay, I still got about 15 pounds I got to lose and shape up to get where I want to get. I'm a 6'4", black dude. So
you're 6'4", Nick?
Yeah.
Wow. Because see, we haven't met in person with these Zooms. You don't know, but yeah.
So I'm saying my body type has to be a certain way. I'm too tall to be out here looking like, I'm out here looking like Wimpy from Popeye. Like I can't do that. That messes up my image. So I got to get my like I said, I got to get my fat ass in the gym and get to where I need to get to get what I need to do. And it also goes with dieting as well. So yeah, I'm not in agreement with promoting that type of behavior to our communities because kids look up to you. And so kids will take your word as gospel. So if the parents are trying to get their kids fit and they see somebody like a Lizzo or somebody else they look up to and they say, well, Lizzo said this or such and such said that, then I don't have to do it. And then they end up coming with all kind of heart problems and all kind of
it's
issues.
not. Mm-hmm. And I love, Nick, what you said, because again, like even your business, Nitecast Media, it is like you're highlighting people of color and Black entertainers. And I love what you said, how you're like, this is a problem in our communities, especially. Like a question I was going to ask you is, I just wonder if it was a mainstream white woman, would it get the same like attention or different or this or that? Because I feel like people defending her, say on Twitter, whatever it is, they'll be like, oh, here we go again. People coming after like a Black woman and this and that. And it's like, well, to your point, you're like, this is a big issue in our community, which I feel like people don't talk about, right?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope because you got to be careful. I mean, I would say this even if it was a white person, if it was an Asian person, a Native American, Pacific Islander, whoever, right? Because I feel right is right and wrong is wrong. But speaking as a Black person, talking about another Black person, I'm not downing Lizzo at all. Let me be very, very clear. I've never met this woman. I don't know. She could be one of the nicest people in the world. I just don't agree with her philosophy when it comes to how she's disseminating that message to the masses about, quote unquote, body shaming or positive body sculpting, whatever you want to nickname it. I don't feel like that's cool because like I said, there's too many people that have those issues of obesity and things of that nature. So yeah, do what you do, shout out to Lizzo, do what you do, but yeah, I ain't about to rock with that.
I think that's such a level-headed approach, like sane, level-headed and fair. Totally. Yeah. And it's like, I still love her music. The irony is like, I'll listen to her music while I'm doing my thing in the gym. Right. So there you go. Yeah, so, two things can be true at the same time. Now let's pivot to music a little bit more specifically. So I want to talk to you about Ariana Grande. I don't know if you remember this when she came out with her song 7 Rings, and it had it basically took all of these things from Black artists. Like there was one woman who almost had a song that was like identical about like Black women's hair, and Ariana Grande's talking about her hair extensions, right? And I think the actual beat of it sounds, I feel like it's a Soulja Boy song, but it sounds exactly like it. So at the time when this was all going down, I was at the Grammys and I interviewed Taylor Parks, who is her like partner and her like song, like her co-writer, right? And I asked her about all this, like, what do you think about all the flack of Ariana, like kind of ripping this music off, right? And here's what she said, and I want your thoughts on this. She said, I highly doubt those artists would want me to go through their catalog and go through all the songs that they've written or they were inspired by. We're at a time in music where all of these lines are being blurred. Now we're able to break through what we thought hip hop was or pop was and ignore all of that. She's allowed to fuse everything. I think it's important. I think it's important to fuse all these things and to bring us all together so we can look left and right at these award shows and see different kinds of artists. So what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna say it like this. You know, I'm gonna give it to you raw and uncut.
I love it.
So I'm gonna say it like this. I think she has a point as far as blending the styles, but the problem is just because you blend the styles, you have to give credit where it's due. This is why rock and roll was stolen from Black folks. People like Elvis Presley and others have stolen rock and roll from people, you know, Fats Domino, from people like Little Richard, people like what's my man from Chuck Berry. You know, we never got the credit that we deserve as it pertains to, you know, creating this sound of music. I mean, look at jazz. They've even, you know, infused jazz as far as, you know, trying to make it pop. And that's not Dizzy Gillespie, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis. That's, you know, original jazz. And that's where it started. And so when you have Ariana Grande, it's cool that she wants to blend in, you know, and infuse in different styles, but then give credit to where it's due. Yeah. Speak about the origin of hip hop. Speak about how hip hop has pretty much been the genre of music that they said wasn't going to last past 5 years when it got started back in the Bronx and in East New York, and then migrated, you know, out west and down south. Talk about that. Talk about the artists that came before you that gave you the opportunity to be able to do this. But see, when you don't do that, you don't talk about the artists, you don't talk about the Grandmaster Flashes of the world. You don't talk about the EPMDs or the NWAs, or, you know, or the Death Row Records or Bad Boy or, you know, Master P and No Limit or Cash Money or Outkast and Goody Mob. You have to talk about these things because there's a whole generation that doesn't even know or understand that. So they think you're creating something new because they haven't heard it before. But if you don't give the history to it, that's why I thought it was absurd. And I'm so happy that Chris Brown cleared the air when they said, do you think you're going to, you know, be as good, if not better than Michael Jackson? He was like, no, Michael Jackson is the reason why I'm here. And I was so glad that he gave props to Michael Jackson because how many people don't know? There's a generation that don't really understand what the impact of Michael Jackson and Prince, for that matter, have impacted on pop culture, which is really Black culture. And so it comes to a point where you got to start giving props where it's due. You got to start giving credit where it's due. And if you're not going to do that, then you know what? Then we're gonna continue to blast you until you do, because we take it as something that's something to the effect of theft.
You know, it's really interesting because I talk about these themes on my show a lot. In fact, I had an interview with a guest. I haven't released it yet, but we talk about this very thing, right? Like, what's the line of like celebrating and like kind of like fusing, like Taylor Parks said, right? Like celebrating each other's culture and stealing. Like, now I'm all for like recognizing and celebrating. Like, I don't like when people are territorial about it and it's like, no, like it's mine. Like I feel like it's just a richer culture as a whole if we acknowledge and celebrate one another, right? But even like listening to this Ariana Grande like song, and like how similar it was. Literally, it like was a straight up rip from the other songs. Even the aesthetic of the music video, I think it was like a rip off of like a 2 Chainz video or something like that. I even was like, okay, this is like a carbon copy. And I don't know if you know this, but to kind of like jest with all of the blowback, I think she and 2 Chainz ended up doing a like remix collaboration, like winking at all the haters, being like, well, here we are going to do it together, that kind of thing. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but see, was it authentic or was it forced? And see, even if it was authentic, people are still gonna believe it's forced because you only did it because of the backlash. It's like somebody getting caught for saying something racist and then saying, "Oh, I'm sorry. That was 5 years ago." You're only sorry because you got caught. Because if you were truly sorry, you would have, first of all, after you did those racist tweets or whatever you got caught up for, you would immediately issued an apology and then try to make amends to say, you know what, I'm ignorant. I turned around my ways, whether it were racist or anti-Semitic or whatever it is, to be able to say, okay, I'm atoning for, my failures. That's fine. We'll give you a second chance. But you only saying sorry because you got caught? Man, get the hell out of here.
Yeah. Yeah.
For real.
I mean, the whole thing, sometimes I'm like, people are just where they're at. And like, even when the whole thing went down, like, so I'm Jewish, right? When the whole thing went down with Whoopi Goldberg on The View with the Holocaust and all that, like, I don't know, like in my head, I was like, is it totally ignorant? Yes. But am I going to be like so mad at her and outraged? Like, it's kind of just like, it's unfortunate. And like, she'll learn and whatever, like we're all getting better. But there's a part of me that's like, again, it's like with this whole cancel culture, right? Like not like reprimanding and just kind of being like, that's where people are at. And maybe it's like, if it's sad for them in their little existence over there, that's sad for them. Like that kind of idea,
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think you gotta, like I said, you gotta take every issue. You can't group all the issues into one. You gotta take it.
It's like case by case.
Yeah, exactly. Because other than that, you hustling backwards.
Yeah. So, okay. Lastly, let's talk about the BET Awards are this weekend. And you made a comment earlier about Drake's new album being trash. And I feel like this is an unpopular opinion I have all the time. Now, call me like the whitest girl you ever met, like 2000s hip hop I am talking like T-Pain, okay? I am talking like Ja Rule, Diddy, like Nelly, like all those good ones, even like the Ying Yang Twins, like why not, right? And these are conversations I have behind closed doors. I'm like, it's just not the same now. Like, I just don't know how kids at these dances, like, grinds like I did in 6th grade with braces to these songs. Like I feel like I don't get it. So am I like off base here? Cause I just feel like it's not what it was, or it's just morphed and it's different now and I'm a grandma.
See, I grew up in the G-Funk era, right? Which is the 90s, right? So I grew up in the golden age of hip hop, right? When it was Death Row, when it was Bad Boy, when it was, you had Outkast, Goody Mob, you had Ice Cube and West Side Connection, like, you had E40,
Unit, Young Money, like
yeah, and that was later. That was like 2000s, right? So I mean, I grew up like Dog Pound, Warren G, people like that. But then I grew into the 2000s, like you said, the G Units. I slept on Nelly's first record. I didn't like Nelly until the second record. I had to go back, and I always said if I ever ran into Nelly, I'd apologize to him because I slept on his talent because he came with a unique style. And I wasn't ready for it at that time. But I mean, you evolved. I mean, even if you look on the West Coast alone, you have Problem, you have Kendrick Lamar, you have J-Rock, you have Schoolboy Q, you have, Mr. Fab from the Bay. You have all these new artists that emerged in that culture that didn't really get the shine at that time that they should have got. I mean, now we see what Kendrick has evolved to. We see what J. Cole has evolved to. And again, I'm not a Drake hater. For all you Drake stands out there get on my damn nerves.
They go hard.
They get on my, they so trying to convince me that this new album that he has is so, look, there's only one track I bump on that record. That's the one with him and 21 Savage. You know why? Because he actually raps. I don't want to hear Drake unless he raps. I don't want to hear him sing. That shit gets on my nerves. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear Drake rap because when Drake raps, he can absolutely rap. The Lemon Pepper freestyle, that was incredible. I don't want to hear Killer Mike sing, for example, or harmonize. I don't want to hear that.
That's fair.
I want to hear you rap. Okay.
That's kind of how I feel about Nicki Minaj. Like, I'm not trying to hear her sing. I love her and I can like sing every one of her. Like, I can rap all of her lyrics on cue, but like, I don't know if I'm trying to hear the bitch sing though.
I don't want to hear that either. I want to hear her rap because she could absolutely rap. Her, Rhapsody, there's other MCs that are out there that can bust. I want to hear you rap. Period.
So am I totally off base missing the 2000s peak era?
Nah, I miss the 90s. I miss the G-Funk. I miss the golden age of rap, a Tribe Called Quest. I miss all that, but I still embrace the newer music. Like there's still some good music out there. Like I said, J. Cole, Kendrick, Drake are the top three. I'm talking about when Drake raps. Let me be clear, when Drake raps. But there are other artists out there that are equally as dope that may not get the recognition, but they still provide great music. Like they still come out with great music.
It's going to be interesting to see what the next wave is, because every generation has what's nostalgic to us.
I'm going to tell you a rap group to check out.
Okay.
And they have this they are new sound, but they have an old school type for they like real MCs. It's called Villain Park.
I'm writing it down.
Villain Park. They're from LA, from the west side of LA.
Okay.
And they are incredible.
Lastly, the BET Awards this weekend. I have covered the BET Awards in LA down, at the Staples Center, the drill, many of times. And I have to say, after covering them, I could totally get like when a Black person's like, oh my God, I'm the only Black person in a sea of white people right now. Like, this is awkward. I definitely, I can empathize when I've had the BET Awards. They're like, who is this white bitch and where did she come from? Like, who sent her here?
Is that the Viacom lady?
Yeah, exactly. Like, is this a janitor? What's happening? So what's funny is, and I know you covered this on Nitecast on your site, Diddy is getting honored this weekend. What is it, with the Lifetime Achievement Award? Now, I just find this like, it's so funny, the turn of events, because he just, got this whole hoopla around the Billboard Awards, right? For going on his whole thing of uncanceling the canceled. Let's really unify. We need to be free, whether it be music or in life. We don't need to live this way. And like uncanceling Morgan Wallen, Travis Scott, and he got a ton of blowback. I'm just going to read really quickly what some of the critics tweeted. Okay, so here's one. Diddy uncanceling Morgan Wallen and having him perform at the show while awarding Tamika Mallory. Tamika is an activist. She was behind the Women's March. An award for her dedication to activism makes no sense. Someone else said, this is interesting because it's like the woman card. It took almost 2 decades for Hollywood to let Janet's incident at the Super Bowl go. They still judge Britney for being herself, but P. Diddy asked us to forgive Travis Scott after he enabled a tragedy, Morgan Wallen after he used the N-word. Crazy. So, in my mind, it's kind of what you said before. It's like each thing is its own individual, like case by case. So to like lump it all together and make it this versus that, I kind of think it's apples to oranges. But did he deserve the wrath? Did he uncancel the cancel? Did you agree with him? What's the sitch, Nick?
As far as you using the N-word, no, I ain't forgiving you for that. I don't give a damn who you are. You might not be talking for a few weeks. You call me that. That's just real talk.
Wait, you do or don't forgive?
No, I don't. No, absolutely not.
Oh, you don't? So no, what if he was like saying it with a friend and the friend was okay with it?
I don't give a damn. It doesn't matter. You said, everybody's old enough to know what that word represents and know the consequences that come with that word. Like, I don't use that word and I'm a Black person, right? I just don't, because I feel like we are kings. We're elevated past that. That's something that the slave masters gave us. And then we tried to flip it and do something else with it, which don't make no damn sense, but that's another conversation.
Really quick, Nick, does it bug you when it's in rap, in hip hop music?
It doesn't bug me, but when it's excessive, yeah. Because it's like, there's no other word that you can use in your vocabulary. Like, the one thing I will say, like, that's why this is one of the most iconic albums in hip hop, is the DOC, when he dropped his only record in the beginning called No One Could Do It Better. He didn't use not one single curse word and didn't really use the N-word.
That's classy.
Right?
That's classy.
And this was back in 1990, 89, 90.
I like
it's
that.
It's a classic before he lost his, unfortunately, before he lost his voice. But that to me showed me as I got older that you have a vocabulary, use it, right? And I'm not saying everybody has to be this articulate individual, but it's like, come on, dude. Like, I'm not forgiving a white person for using the N-word. I don't care if if you're singing it with a rap lyric or not, because I know there's some white people that will not use the N-word, whether it's in a rap lyric or not. They will skip over it and not say it.
That's me. I'm literally in my car and I'm like I look around. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So I mean, it's
I
about
just
respect.
don't find it necessary. Like, that's just me. And,
Yeah.
but it's interesting because I've had many conversations like this. And again, it's like, it's really interesting to me how it's just down to the individual. Like, some are like, whatever. Some are like, absolutely no. Some are, it's
I mean, if
subjective.
you like, I don't understand how you could compare that to what Travis Scott did. Like, Travis Scott was a tragedy. It was unfortunate. But you act like he actually did that. Like, he actually took the barricades and pushed the barricades on people.
Right.
Was it irresponsible of his team? Absolutely. The man should not be vilified for it forever. Right. Like, after due time, after he's paid out, the families apologize, obviously paid out damages to the families, hopefully. The man, he's got to continue life. I mean, he's a pretty talented guy. He's got to continue life. Right. And that's just the bottom line. So to compare one with the other is asinine to me.
That's really interesting because I haven't seen anybody separate the two and be like, no, not this, but this, that kind of thing. So
like we said earlier, it's a case by case basis.
Okay, so I don't know if you know this. I got an invite actually for this junket. So BET is coming out. Have you heard this with College Hill Celebrity Edition?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Did you get? Yeah, and it's like Nene Leakes, Lamar Odom. I forget who else. I have it written down, but it's funny because the junket is tomorrow, and I in my head I was like toying back and forth. I was like, do I? And then in my mind I thought the same thing. I was like, they are gonna like eat me alive. Be like, who is this white bitch in here? I
say do it, just to mess with people.
Right? It's tomorrow. Maybe it'll inspire me, and I'll RSVP. Try to RSVP after this. So what's interesting though, Nick, is that Stacey Dash is a part of it. And I saw her, they have all the people part of it. Okay. He's doing a face palm right now. So let me tell you a little story about Stacey Dash. And I apologize to my listeners because I tell this story in my episode with Coach Lisa, and I haven't released that episode yet, but basically, we all know what went down with Stacey Dash, right? Basically, she came out against BET being like, why are you like separating Black people more? Like, we all need to come together. And she got a ton of flack. So right before COVID, Nick, I saw her at an event sponsored by BET. Like, BET was like on the windows. It was on the glasses. It was like, literally it was everywhere. And my eyes fell out of my head. I was like, is that Stacey Dash? So I went up and talked to her. She's like eating whatever like finger sandwich that they served that day. Her publicist is next to her, and I just went for it. So I literally squat next to her, and I'm like, can I interview you really quick? She's like, yeah, absolutely. And she's a total sweetheart. So I asked her about it. I said, I have to ask, like, you're here at this event with BET, like, what's the deal? And I thought what she said was very, thoughtful. She was like, listen, were my words misinterpreted? Yes. Could I have articulated it better? Yes. But she was like, I don't regret the sentiment of what I said. That said, and I asked her, like, would you have a future working with BET? She's like, absolutely. Like, it's always been family. It's always been home, like that kind of thing. So now cut to now, she's in this very project I'm talking about, part of BET. So, I mean, hey, if people want to like learn and grow and evolve and all that, I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, first of all, ain't nothing evolving but her checkbook. Number one. Number two, BET hasn't been Black owned since 2002 when Viacom bought it. Okay. So let's get that clear.
Wait, BET has not been?
No. Since Johnson
Viacom bought it, right?
Yeah, Bob Johnson sold it, I think 2001 or 2002. Mm-hmm. So it hasn't been Black owned. Okay. It's just Black in and targeted. Of itself,
let's just let that sink in, right? Like, let's just let that in, like, these conglomerates ruining everything. But
it's Black targeted. There's a difference, right? So, which is cool. I mean, it's business. So, but as far as what Stacey Dash goes, I mean, in the words of my man, most definitely was on the Dave Chappelle show, the Black delegation has traded the rights to Stacey Dash for somebody else to be named later in the racial draft. Because that's basically how most Black people feel. We don't deal with Stacey Dash. She's a sellout. She's misguided. And the fact that she still believes the crap that's spewed out of her mouth on national television is absolutely absurd and appalling. And there's no way in hell you could tell me that she's trying to learn anything but how to get her checkbook more swollen than what it is already. Because nobody believes Stacey Dash. She's a dimwit and nobody believes her at all. and I'm one of the ones that don't believe her. So you can kick rocks with that one.
But isn't there something to be said, right? Like there's one thing of like celebrating Black entertainers, even what you do with your site and BET,
Sure.
but also like separating again, like where's the line there, right?
Well, here's the reason. The reason why there has to be a Black entertainment television or a Black entertainment period is because we are discriminated against from the get-go. We have been discriminated against in this country for centuries, which is why we have to come up with our own, because we have to be highlighted to be able to tell these stories that are resonating with us in our various communities, because we are not in a position of people of color to be in control. We're not in control. That's just what it is. It's nothing. I'm not sounding like the angry person. It's just I'm spewing facts. We're not in control of stuff. So those who are in control don't have it in times prior met our needs as far as relating to us in our communities.
So with that said, because this is like a counter argument, right? Is like not to like invalidate any of that experience whatsoever at all. Like, of course, someone like me would never know what that experience is like, but you have people, and I even say this with Coach Lisa in that episode. Like I've even thought this in my head, you know, you have like some of the most powerful people in our culture, right? Oprah, Beyonce, Obama. So it like, I feel like it like, I don't know, it's like two things are true at the same time.
Well, here's the thing. You have people that have made it, been able to make it, but look at the wealth gap. Look at the wealth gap, right? That tells you a whole lot, right? You look at certain areas and communities
and like
across
inner
the state,
cities and all of that. Yeah.
In the Black and brown communities, look at the wealth gap versus
and resources.
Those in suburbia and in the other white communities. Look at the wealth gap. Look at the opportunities to be able to afford certain amenities versus being able not to. Look at the school systems in various communities. When you have more affluent communities, the school systems are usually a bit better.
Again, like both things are true. Like I love to believe that we are in a place where people like, you know, the Oprahs and the Beyoncés, like anybody here can be a hero and succeed, but also not being ignorant to, you know, what you just said, right? Like the realities of like the inner cities of this, of that, of resources and all of that, right? So, you know, two things are true at once. And I feel like when like, and, you know, I'm going to wrap it up, but I feel like when people make it political, it's like either one or the other, right? And I just feel like that's, you know, neither are, you know, completely true.
I'll say this much really quick. I think there's good and bad in every race. And I truly believe that. I don't think every person in one race is one way or the other way. I think it just depends on the individuals, you know, white folks that I know. And we've had questions about, you know, hey, how do I help, you know, end racism? I said, first of all, accept the fact that you have white privilege. And then what you do with that white privilege, as far as educating or informing people that, hey, we're standing up against racism, sexism, bigotry, things of that nature, that helps the cause. And truly be an ally. Don't just be an ally for 5 minutes because it's the most popular thing to do. Lip service. Right.
You know, it's not like that overly complicated, but a lot of it's like, just be a good person. You know, I've said this before, like that at its core, like it just shouldn't be hard.
Be a good person, but do something about it. Don't talk about it, be about it.
Speaking of being about it, and this is the very last question that I have for you, and then we're going to wrap, because this has been like a true pleasure. And I so appreciate you taking everything I've thrown your way. You mentioned Dave Chappelle. Are you a Dave Chappelle fan?
Oh, absolutely. Comedic genius.
Comedic genius. So when he got all of that flack for his Netflix special, what did you think?
It was all bullshit. Because I'm like, where did he disrespect people? Did he call anybody from that community out their names? No. He made jokes. He jokes about everybody. That's what comedians do. They joke about everybody. Now, he didn't use any homophobic slurs. He didn't use any racial slurs like that. He made jokes and he told stories within those jokes. That is what makes him a comedic genius. Because he knows how to deliver it.
Ricky Gervais's new Netflix special, I think he opens like being like, yeah, this slot was going to be by a woman, but we all know they're not as funny as men, like something like that. And it's like, the more, the better. Like, I welcome it. I love when it takes all the aim at us. Like, that's what it's supposed to do, you know, make us uncomfortable. That's what they do, is they push boundaries and they go there and they on some level, it mirrors society, right? In some way. So with that said, Nick Hamilton, a true wordsmith. You really surprised me today in a good way with all of your just like unfiltered opinions coming in. And that's the fun of it all, right? It's like it's unexpected, and that's what it should be about. So Nick, I so appreciate it.
Thank you. You got to let me know when you come to LA. You come to the city, we got to hang.
That is good. And you know what? Maybe it will be, if we're so lucky, in a locker room, getting in on all the action, right?
We got to do that, and we got to hang out, because I'm telling you, there's some spots in here I got to show you around too. That what we talk about and people watching, hilarious. We have jokes for days.
It's a live podcast. There we go. Nick Hamilton, it's a done deal.
Absolutely. Let's make it happen.